Good morning. This is the Blaine's World webcast that can be found each week on Facebook, YouTube, or LinkedIn. You can also listen in on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. You can get more information and listen to previous shows at our website, which is behind me, blainesworld.net. I'm your host, Blaine Greenfield, and I'm here in my Zoom studio in lovely downtown Fairview, North Carolina. Each week, we focus on positive news and information about people and organizations in both Western North Carolina and throughout the country. And toward that end, it's my pleasure to introduce Christi Hurd, who's a certified parent coach, being my guest today. And Christi, you can feel free to wave to all your friends and friends who are watching this. Okay, give her a big wave. That is Christi Hurd. Christi Hurd makes the hardest, most important job you'll ever love easier. She seeks to empower parents with confidence and skills to connect, guide, and grow with their kids. So the question, Christi, I always ask the first time I meet somebody on the air is, as a kid, you grew up where?
I started out in Montana and ended up in Charlotte. So I've been all over. My dad was a church pastor and decided to become a family counselor. And so we went around with him because there wasn't internet to get degrees for him to get extra training. And he ended up practicing in Charlotte.
So as a kid, did you always know you wanted to be a parent coach?
No, but I do believe that I have the gifts of encouragement and teaching. And so I use that in the classroom. And then when I found out about parent coaching, it was just a perfect hand in glove opportunity for me to still use those gifts.
And it's funny you said that because it hit me with a magic word, the word of encouragement. And it's so funny, I don't know if I told you, but in another life, I had been a teacher. And one of my students actually gave me a title, and I actually use it now on my business card. He calls me a CEO, a Chief Encouragement Officer.
I love that.
But isn't that what we do as teachers? Isn't that what we
Yes.
do as parents? But I love it that you said it, that you found the gift of encouragement. So you taught at the middle school level all your teaching
I
career?
did. I did. I love middle schoolers. People don't understand that, but I think they're just wonderful.
And so that was so you went to school for education to become a
I
teacher?
did. I did. I actually started out in the elementary ages and then moved up to middle school and taught there for quite a number of years and then decided that it was time to retire.
Okay. And so teaching is, that's funny you said that. Yeah, because I always thought that I taught initially on a high school level, and I said then I moved to college. And I always gave credit to people such as yourself who would teach on the elementary or especially middle school level, and that you actually enjoyed it all these years.
I really did enjoy it. Particularly, it's kind of like with parents, particularly with those kids who really wanted to learn. I love to teach people who want to learn.
And it's not the key if they want to learn. That's why
Yes.
eventually I love college because for the most part the students did want to learn.
Yes.
So as a middle school teacher, did you specialize in a specific field?
I was an English teacher.
Okay, so you taught English at the middle school level,
Hmm.
and so you taught a bunch of years. What got you eventually? You just wanted to retire, or you had enough of that?
My husband was ready to retire and wanted me to retire with him. And I knew that I still wanted to do something with my gifts. And then I learned about parent coaching. So it's a great way for me to do this part-time and still be available to our grandchildren and do things with him as well.
That's really cool. Talk about then how you learned about parent coaching, because again, I don't know if I know too much about it. So tell me how you learned.
Yeah, well, it was actually one of my doctors whose wife was a parent coach, and when I told him that I was wanting to do something different using my gift package, he said, "Have you ever thought of being a parent coach?" And I didn't even know there was such a
May
thing.
I?
So, when I talked with his wife, she told me about the training program in Washington State that I could take, and it took off from there.
Now you did that
Is
training. You did it virtually.
It was a virtual program, a year-long program, and it required 100 hours of practice. So it took me about a year and a half to finish. And then I went on to be certified as a positive discipline parent educator. And so now I use both of those to help parents.
And I love that title, just positive discipline. educator or coach. I've never heard that either. What exactly is positive discipline?
It's a discipline approach or a way parents use to work with their children. It's not one that you're punishing your child. You're more working with them to come up with solutions. So there's just lots of different ways that I teach the positive discipline. I do workshops where they do interactive activities and kind of get into the shoes of a child and learn how a child internalizes the way that we communicate with them.
Now, in terms of the coursework you took, so this took you a period of time, the practical aspect of it, after you finished the coursework, you then said you had to put 100 hours in on that?
I had to have 100 practice hours with parents.
Yeah.
So I had to find parents who were willing to let me practice with them. And it's a win-win for them and for me.
Well, it sounds it. So it's probably pretty cool for them to find you and to have you working
Yes,
as a trainer.
yes.
You mentioned also your grandkids. You're also a parent as well?
I'm a grandparent. I have two. They're almost 4 and almost 6. And I have 3 adult children, and one of the children has the two grandchildren.
So with adult children, so I guess you had practical experience, not only as a teacher, but you had experience raising your own children?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Not
Now,
easy.
well, I was going to ask, and you mentioned it's not easy for anybody, but you mentioned this, so you didn't really have these skills, but you kind of picked them up intuitively, or you found
I
you had a
did.
gift for it?
I did. You know, in the classroom, I had a chance to communicate with parents a lot and found that they really wanted support, and yet I didn't have the time to give them the support that they needed. So when I learned about being a parent coach, I really felt called. This was my new um, ground for helping people would be the parents this time and not the children.
No, it sounds, I mean, what a great field to be into. So how do you find out about this course in Washington? Because I had never heard of it before. How do you
There's
hear?
a in Washington, it's called the Parent Coaching Institute, PCI, and a former administrator, school administrator, started this program, and she trains people internationally.
Now, you had taught for a bunch of years. Had you picked up additional skills and taken this coursework that you hadn't had as a teacher?
Oh yeah, learned a lot about interpersonal skills and listening and asking the right questions to help parents think. I'm it's very good because you're really trying to, you're not coming in as a know-it-all and trying to fix a parent. You're helping them dig deep and l- be aware of themselves and what they need and what their children need.
And what's so cool about this is as I'm listening to you, these are things you don't ever learn anywhere. And think about that in terms of you go to school to learn all sorts of stuff. Nobody ever taught you how to be a parent, you know. Um,
No, you're exactly right. And so we kind of just shoot from our hip. And I know when I was raising my children, I would have loved to have a parent coach. I would have loved it because I didn't have a lot of confidence. And to have someone that points out my strengths and helps me co co-solve problems, co-create solutions. That would have been just so great. I would have felt like a burden had been lifted from me.
and I like how you said that because I imagine most parents learn how to be a parent from their parents, and that's
Yes,
okay if their parents are very good parents or excellent parents or whatnot. But I guess not everybody has the same skill level as a parent.
that's exactly right. And every one of us, our story begins at home. And so we look at that story, we keep what we like about that story, and then we change it and how we want to change the story for our kids.
It must be tougher for you as a parent coach to work with folks who have had kind of poor backgrounds or backgrounds where the parents weren't supportive. We
Yes,
were talking before about encouragement, so
yes.
that's great. But unfortunately, a lot of parents aren't. overly supportive or overly
No,
encouraging
that's right.
of their kids.
That's right. And that's it's not that those parents cannot be good parents. They just it needs more intention and more practice and more support because they can't look back and think of someone who modeled it for them.
Now, you mentioned in terms of practice, and I guess that's what they do when they hire you as a coach. You are teaching them skills, but you're also giving them homework back to your teaching days.
Yes, I am
Homework?
giving them homework. We co-create solutions to whatever they want, whatever their issue is for that session. And they come up with their own action plan, one that they know that they can do. And I'm always about taking small steps towards the goal that you want. So we will co-create action steps, and then they have the ownership. They do the practicing, they do the consistency, and then come back and tell me we celebrate or we keep working on it.
I love it. Give me an example, if you would, of a typical problem you might work with a parent in terms of co-creating a solution.
So let's think of how a parent, because they're just so busy,
Sure.
they come home, they're pretty feeling pretty empty in terms of energy, and their child pushes their button. And before they know it, they're just screaming at their child, and there's disconnection. The child stomps off to the room or whatever, and nothing positive happens.
And by the
Um,
way, if I can
so
just
what I
jump,
try to help the parents do is to take that pause. I call it the power of the pause before they respond, because a regulated parent is the best parent to communicate with their child. And if they're dysregulated, if they're have so many distractions, then they're not going to be able to be the best for their child at that time.
I'm assuming then, so one of the things you're not working with parents is how to scream louder than their children. That's not the goal.
No,
Out scream your children. But that, like you said, that it must be tough though if your buttons are being put or pushed.
yes.
How do you not let them push you? How do you let them not get pushed?
Well, they have to look at it's really what their perspective is. Are they focusing on what their child's not doing or what their child is doing? And so I really try to keep that's where the positive discipline comes, is building on what the child does well and focusing on what the child does well, because really a child needs unconditional love from their parent more than anything. And that's what helps shape them. And so if a parent is dysregulated, with expectations that are too high for that child, then that's going to exasperate the child, and they won't be connected in a way that brings real good fruit.
Is it possible to turn this whole thing around? In other words, when people contact you, they contact you, I guess, for a reason, or they're having problems disciplining their children or getting along with their children.
Yeah, the parents who reach out to me, some have a specific issue with their child that they want me to look at with them. Some come just because they want to be a better parent. They know they're good, but they want to be better, kind of like a person goes to the gym to get stronger. They know they need to be doing these exercises, but they need someone to show them how to do it.
And by the way, those must be your favorite kinds of clients to have.
Well, my favorite kind are those that have a growth mindset. And as an educator, you know what that is, right? The parents who want to learn from their mistakes, want to keep trying, versus saying a fixed mindset is I can't do it or this is too hard. So a parent who is intentional is the kind of parent that really gets the most results.
Is there any age limit in terms of the parents of the kids that you work with?
Right now, I'm working with a parent of elementary kids, and I'm also working with a parent who has adult children.
Oh, really?
So it really doesn't matter what age the kids are because it's about the approach the parent takes.
No, tell me about that though. That's very interesting. That so even if a kid's old, an adult child, you can work with parents in that context
Oh,
as well.
absolutely. It's about connection because generally, an adult child, there's still that little child deep within them that wants to be connected to their parent. And there's ways that a parent of an adult child can kind of repair that connection and start nurturing it again.
For example, if you can.
For example, I have a parent right now who has twins and started calling them separately so that he could encourage them as individual people and got into their world, asked really good questions to show that he cared, and that really repaired their connection because they felt like that he didn't know them. So now he works on just treating them like an individual and talking about what they want to talk about. And it's amazing. It's amazing how they have moved forward in just 3 months.
Well, it sounds it. But going back to the range of people you work with, so I never realized you could work with adults, but children in school. The youngest age, when should parents start being aware of the fact that they could improve their parenting skills? What's the youngest child?
Probably 3 or 4.
Okay. And have you worked with young
Oh
children
yeah,
that
I
age?
sure have. I sure have. And again, it's about the parent approach. Are they talking to the child in a way that the child wants to listen? Are they saying, let's do this together? Are they giving choices? Or are they just barking out commands? And what I try to do as an educator is help them know what's going on in that child's brain with the age that they are, because they're not going to act like an adult when they're 3, because they aren't ready to act like an adult. So when they start to see how that child is, then they can start responding what's appropriate developmentally.
I would imagine a large part of this also involves teaching parents had the right questions to ask or how to ask questions
Oh yeah,
in terms of
right.
I used to use this in terms of working with marketing students and people in sales. And I wonder if it's true as a parent or grandparent that is there a number formula that should be had as to how much the parent or grandparent should talk versus how much the kid should talk?
Oh my goodness, yes.
Because again, I'm trying to think back to my teaching days. I tried to maintain this, but some teachers are just just all lecture. Is that parents have that problem as well?
That's right. Yes, parents often want to stuff in instead of draw out. And when they ask the right questions, then it really sends a message to the child, you're valuable to me, and I want to know how you see life. I help them role play what it looks like to be curious, instead of demanding. And it's amazing what that does to the connection with the child.
How about the very classic question parents ask, and you'll show a better way to ask it, but the child comes home from school, and where it's the traditional thing, what do you do in school today? Or what do you learn in school today? Is there a better question to ask?
It's really better not even to ask that.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. They don't want to talk about their day right when they get home.
So what should you ask when the child comes home?
It's great to see you. It's great to see you. What do you want to do this afternoon?
Oh, wow.
You move on to that. And then generally, after they start to unwind, then they'll want to start talking about their day. But just to put them right on the spot, how was your day? I don't know about you, but have you ever, when you've gotten up in the morning, had someone say to you, how did you sleep?
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, I don't know how I slept. Don't ask me that. Just let me have my coffee,
But that's
you
so
know?
true. The very first question a lot of people ask, or the other, it's such a useful skill you're teaching because it also applies to on the other end, parents and grandparents, or when people are sick, the other question everybody asks, but it's a stupid question they ask, how are you doing?
Yeah, right.
But it's very similar to a kid comes home from school. So somebody's suffering, do they want to relive their suffering? So I guess what's so cool about what you're saying is the principles can be applied to many situations.
They really can be. You're right. You're
Even
right.
even in terms of friends and neighbors, getting to speak to people. So I guess the key is one of the things you work with people is how to get the kids and grandkids to talk or open up.
Right. How to get them to talk and how for you to be a better listener so that they'll want to talk to you.
Okay. And are there listening skills? I mean, everybody talks about listening is important, but are there listening skills that you teach people?
Oh, yes. That's what I love about the positive discipline courses is that we will role play and I'll have parents come up and one will act like the child and one will act like the parent and we'll take them through different role plays and then they debrief. How did I feel when the parent did this versus doing that? So it's very good, very enlightening. Parents don't realize that a child is taking in the feelings, the intuition, the thinking, and coming up with a conclusion based on their interaction with their parent.
It must be cool for you as an educator when the parent or the grandparents have an aha moment,
Oh my goodness, yes.
I mean, I'm just listening to it. I'm so excited to hear this, that you're learning skills. And by the way, so people take this, could be parents, but you also work with grandparents as well?
Oh, sure.
Okay. And so part of this is if you want to become a better grandparent, this might be a useful course for you to take.
Oh, yes, right. It would be.
And so talk about an aha moment. Like, what have you heard, or what's an exciting thing for you to hear when somebody sees the light?
Well, when a parent realizes that the way that they were parenting, like it's my way or the highway, and that there's a way that they can communicate kindly and firmly the same thing and get more cooperation. That's really been useful for them to see that there's a better way to parent instead of, just demanding. So I do take them through different parenting styles, and they begin to find themselves in those styles and which style do they want, and then we work on that style.
How long does the program take you? If somebody signs up with you or decides to work with you,
I usually recommend 8 to 10 sessions. And we meet, so we usually start out weekly and then maybe go to every 2 weeks. And then I let them decide, do they feel like their toolbox is filled enough with what they need to keep going on their own, or do they want to stay in touch with me on a regular basis just to stay tuned, like a tune up?
I
So I
call it
really let them decide.
I call it check up from the neck up. Is
Oh,
it
I like that.
Zig
Yeah,
Ziglar quote? But it's I guess helpful because once you've applied some of this stuff, to then actually put it into play is all the. Do
exactly. I
you
mean,
ever
it's
do
really about change. It's about how much does that parent really want to change?
do you ever do this on a small group level?
A small group level?
Yeah, meaning a couple parents at a time, or
Oh, yeah. I just had a parent group this past summer about parenting teens, and we met at a coffee shop this summer, and it was great.
so I would think that'd be very helpful to compare and contrast
Very helpful
your
when parents
experiences.
can help other parents. Yes.
Talk about another problem that comes up as a coach, but certainly as a parent. Um, and I'd be curious your spin on this, the role of technology in terms of kids.
Yes.
Um, the whole, you and I, when we taught, I don't know if you ever had the cell phones, middle school, and when you were teaching, were cell phones coming into play?
They were, yeah, they disrupted our world. What, about 2015, around there?
Right.
Um, so yes, I've had to deal with that, and I'm actually leading a workshop tomorrow night on tackling technology together for parents. So we'll be looking at ways that they can have more balance. And it's really an all of us problem instead of
Yeah.
just a kid problem. So I'll start with having them look at, what kind of role model am I with technology?
By the way, in case we I get to post this tomorrow, when and where is this workshop going to be?
It's going to be at Reynolds Middle School at 5:30. It's open to parents of Reynolds District kids.
Okay. And if folks want more information on it, they just show up, or is there a place to? What's the
It's
information?
called Reynolds Community Nights, and they meet every Tuesday from 5 to 7. And so I'm the special program speaker tomorrow night at Reynolds Middle School.
Very exciting. I mean, that's a great program because again, what we talked about earlier, parents never had a chance to even think about this. When they were kids, it wasn't an issue. But I like what you just said there. So on target about parents setting the example and give an example of that for
Well, let's look at I'm sure, Blaine, that you've been at restaurants where you've sat down and everyone has their phone out,
right.
right? And then you've probably seen the opposite too, where no one has their phone out and they're actually talking eye to eye and
Can you
communicating.
imagine? Right.
So we start there, is how important is your family to you when you're together with them? And I even do a little exercise where I'm talking as a parent and they're pretending they're the child. And then I bring my phone up in front of me and kind of interrupt our conversation because I was just notified. And then I ask them as the child, how did that make you feel when I did that? So it just really gives them insight into if I really want to strengthen my connection with my kids, then how am I using technology to do that?
Let me ask you your opinion on this as a educator and somebody who lived through this. Um, do kids need phones in school? And I
No,
wonder about that. Uh,
no,
you know, and some schools right are now moving away from that, saying that they don't allow the kids to have phones in
that's
school.
right. That's right.
I would think that's better, no?
Oh, it is better. It is better. And I wish all schools would do that. What they're recommending now is that if it's more of, how can I stay in touch with my child,
Right.
that you give them, say, a flip phone, something that they can just let you know what they're doing after school, but not anything that has internet apps or anything like that on it.
Interesting. That I never thought of that, but flip phones would do that. But it's just
Hmm.
also the whole idea of being in school a full day, you don't need to have a cell phone. You know,
Well, what it does is it causes a child to be more distracted. So they're not thinking about what they're learning about. They're thinking about, how many likes will I have on that post
right.
that I made when I get back to my locker to check my phone.
Yeah. And it's just it's really going to affect in some ways. I'm glad I'm not teaching anymore because this whole AI thing has revolutionized, that whole
Oh,
thing.
it is. And it's coming whether we like it or not.
Right. But not necessarily in a good way, but it's makes me grateful I'm not teaching, in terms
I
of
agree.
students looking up stuff like that. Um, and you may have had the same thing too, but when I taught, occasionally I teach class in business math, and the whole thing at the time was could you use calculators, and some people did. I had a rule that you could use it after you passed the basic math test, but some people, that was controversial 20 years ago, maybe, it's less controversial now. If folks are interested in working with you in terms of getting in touch with you, what's the best bet?
The best bet is to probably go to my website and you can send me a message on my website. I have my contact information there. They can call me. That's a great way to do it. Attend my workshop and then let me know afterwards that they would like to talk. I love to meet for coffee with anyone that would just like a free discovery session.
And two things, if
So
you would. So the website was what, please?
the website is gracetogrowfamilycoaching.com.
Okay. And so that'll have information about what you do and how to get in
Yes,
touch with you. So that's
yes.
the best bet. What about if somebody also just speaking to you? I think this would be valuable if they wanted you to speak to their school group or their church group who are
I'd love to do
others
that.
to do that as
Yes,
well.
I love to do workshops. I do retreats. They can just call and we can talk about how I could best meet the needs of that group.
Okay. So again, if you give the website again.
Grace to Grow familycoaching.com, and the two is the number two, Grace to Grow Family Coaching.
Okay. And so very exciting stuff. Again, you're going to be workshop short notice at Reynolds tomorrow night if anybody's listening. But best thing, check with you. And best thing is just have a phone conversation initially and just see if you can help them.
Right. Just let me know what it is that you're wanting to get better at, and then we talk about when you want to get started.
Okay. Well, anyway, I'd like to thank you very much for being my guest on this edition of the Blainsville webcast, Christy. I wish you'd been around when my daughter was younger.
Oh,
Somehow she survived, but it was you've been very helpful. I also like to thank my producer, Cappy Tassetti, and hopefully we'll bump into each other sometime down the road. Christy, that'd be
okay,
great.
very good. Very good. Thank you very much.
Likewise.